Yeah. So one of the things we're going to talk about is the grip. Part of that is that open face that you haven't addressed. We definitely need to address that. We've got to get that squared up. And the only reason I say that is when we go to neutral, we go to neutral grip, we go to a more basic, fundamentally sound golf swing, that open face is going to hurt you more than help you. Okay? Right now you're relying on it, but we need to not rely on it. That's a Band-Aid fix to a problem. So we're going to fix it. Now, when I look at the setup overall, the one thing that I see for you have wide shoulders or broad shoulders, right? You have a very narrow stance for your body build. We need to widen your stance out a little bit. It'll allow you a better platform. It'll also allow you to restrict rotation back some in the backswing. So the wider your stance is, the less you can turn back. You turn back too far for the most part, and we'll talk about that as we go. Now, we're going to draw some lines on the screen just to give us a nice view of what's happening. Change that up to a blue line. There we go. And then I have a couple lines that go down from the hips down and hips down to help us see sway and other things in the swing. So as we go ahead and take his club back, we're going to start on Tiger's side. Overall, at address from this view, I don't really have anything to talk to you about. Your tilt is at 13 to the right. It's really not that bad. The average is 10 right. So it looks different because of the way the hands are and where you've already taken the club back some. And that's what we'll figure that out as we go. But I don't think we have too many issues there, honestly. Widening the stance is the main thing. So we take him to halfway back. Take you to halfway back. So halfway back, by definition to us, is club parallel to the ground. So club parallel to the ground is the checkpoint. When we look at the checkpoint, we want to see a few things. One, we have a nice amount of shoulder turn at 43 degrees. Your shoulder tilts at 24 degrees, which isn't bad. You're pretty close. We want like a 2-to-1 ratio. So it's not perfect by all means, but it's not horrible either. So you're fairly tight to 2-to-1. We need you somewhere more in the upper 40s for that to be perfect. And then we'll talk a little bit more on the side view why that needs to happen. But for the most part, it looks good. We have good width here. You're rotating your shoulders back good. You're no sway yet. I'd like to see that right knee in a little bit more on the way back. Say he keeps his right knee in, he doesn't let it push out. We still have a gap between that line and his knee. Mm-hmm. So that's a small thing you can do to help with lower body movement. Go ahead and take this on up a little further. Nice pivot and rotation, so the top of his swing. We like to see that he's angling his upper body away from the target. That's just a good sign that he pivoted. So we look at it from the hip here all the way up the spine. That shows that arrow should be back away from the target. That's the ideal spot. We go on up on your side here. He just keeps going. All right. Now, when we get to the top of the swing, we see some differences, right? Mm-hmm. Now, here's a really cool, interesting fact. Did you know that you only turn to 76 degrees at the top? And that's actually a short turn.
Okay.
So you don't turn enough, technically. But it's how you're turning why it's not right. You're not getting much of a pivot. Do you see how your back is more straight up and down and his is tilted more away from the target? Mm-hmm. So you're doing a lot of effort. You're taking a lot of effort to keep your head right on top of the golf ball, I feel, with a lot of tilt. And those are those numbers that we're looking at. Shoulder turn 76, shoulder tilt 52. Our tour average shoulder tilt at the top here is only about 36 degrees.
I'm not sure.
And you're at 52 degrees.
This is this way?
Your left shoulder being down.
Okay.
At the top. So
it's not down enough?
essentially you're down too far.
Too far.
So let's say the right amount of tilt would be here. Mm-hmm. You're like this.
Okay.
All right. So getting that extra tilt, what it does is it does a few things. One is it's going to lead you into a more over-the-top swing in general, which we'll talk about. Maybe that's something we need to look at. But that's one thing that could happen from this position. The other thing that can happen is we're not going to rotate enough because we're trying to rotate around our spine rather than using pivot to do it. So we'll talk more.